Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Helena and today's video is a beginner's yoga sequence. So we're going to start off our video today seated and spreading the sit bones here, so just using the hands to move the fleshy parts of the sit bones around so that we can get that straight spine going from the hips up to the crown of the head. When we've got that straight spine going, we're going to take the right hand, placing it behind the right sit bone and taking the left hand onto the outside of the right leg. As we inhale, we're going to lift up the crown of the head towards the ceiling and exhale to twist. So twists are generally a part of most yoga classes, really good for rejuvenating the body and bringing energy into the body. With each inhale, seeing if you can lengthen a little more. With each exhale, twisting with the chest towards the back of the room. On the next inhale, slowly bringing the body through center, moving on to the opposite side. This time taking the left hand behind the left hip, right hand onto the outside of the left thigh. Inhaling again, crown of the head towards the ceiling. Exhale to twist and keeping a straight spine throughout. Rather than focus on twisting the head as much as we can, instead focusing on twisting with the chest. Taking one more round of breath here. And after doing so, slowly moving the body back through center. I'm going to rock the body onto all fours, starting to warm up some more with the spine. So here we're firstly going to come into our tabletop position and checking our alignment here. So we want to have the hands underneath the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips so we can get that straight spine going there. And with the fingers, having a gap between each one, what I like to call spider fingers. And this helps to alleviate the pressure in the wrists. As we inhale, we're going to take up the gaze, lifting up with the chest. And as we exhale, rounding the back, this is called a cat-cow movement. As we inhale again, maybe coming a bit deeper this time, gaze forward. Exhale, rounding the back. Taking another 2 rounds of this in your own breath. Noticing any particular tensions in the body and what your body might need today. After the next round of breath here, moving the body back to a neutral spine, gaze to the top of the mat. We're going to take the forearms out in front of us now, coming into a puppy dog pose, one of my favorite yoga poses. And here we're lifting with the hips towards the ceiling, taking the armpits towards the ground, getting a good shoulder opening stretch here, and maybe resting the forehead onto the ground, maybe the chin, and taking the gaze forward if we can. Breathing deeply here, pulling the belly button towards the spine, and taking one more round of breath. On the next inhale, taking the hands back to all fours, and we're going to come into our first downward facing dog. To do this, curling under with the toes, lifting up with the hips. And rather than focusing to try and get straight legs here, bending the knees as much as you need to in order to get a straight spine from the head up to the hips. And what I encourage my students to do is to pedal out their dog, so one by one lifting a heel off the ground, straightening with the opposite leg, getting some good movement going here and noticing how it feels in each of the legs as you do so. Taking another round of breath here. Before one by one, taking the feet behind the hands at the top of the mat, bending the knees as much as you need to get there. When we've reached the top of the mat, or about 3 to 4 inches behind, keeping those knees bent and taking hands around opposite elbows, and then moving those elbows between left and right, taking the belly button towards the thighs, relaxing with the head here. This is our ragdoll position, a really common position to see in yoga classes. When we feel ready to do so, allowing the fingertips to drop towards the ground and vertebrae by vertebrae, bringing the body up to standing, seeing if the last thing can get there to be the head, and really engaging with the core, pulling the belly button towards the spine as you do so. Taking the hands to heart center as we rise. When the crown of the head's now pointing up towards the ceiling, standing in our Tadasana at the top of the mat. So here we want the big toes to touch and the ankles just slightly apart. Taking the gaze forward, allowing the shoulders to come up, dropping them down, and now relaxing. Slightly engaging with our glutes here, pulling the belly button towards the spine, And as we inhale, we're going to lift up with the fingertips, gaze up and ahead. As we exhale, we're going to fold, bending at the knees as much as we need to. Inhale to take our halfway lift, flat back, gaze forward. Exhale back into our fold. This time we're going to rise as we inhale, taking the fingertips back up towards the ceiling, coming into a half sun salutation. As we exhale, forward fold. And this time we're going to do a full sun salutation A. Inhale to come into our halfway lift, flat back, gaze forward. Exhale, dropping the hands to the ground one at a time before taking that left foot to the back of the mat, followed by the right, and holding here in our high plank for a moment. If it's too much for anybody, coming down to the knees. So in our high plank, we want to take the gaze to the top of the mat, gripping in with those spider fingers into the ground, and raising slightly with our hips for most of us. A lot of us, they tend to want to drop down. Pushing the heels towards the back of the room, inhaling here once more. As we exhale, dropping the knees to the ground, tucking the elbows into the body as we drop the chest, the chin to the ground. And inhale to come up into our baby cobra. So pushing the tops of the feet into the ground, lifting off with our hands, taking the gaze forward. Gentle back bend. Taking the hands to the ground, lifting through all fours, and back into our downward facing dog as we curl under with the toes. Again, opportunity here to have a bit of a play around or to come into a still downward facing dog. Taking 5 deep breaths here in your own time, taking the shoulders away from the ears, lifting the hips up towards the ceiling. Engaging with the core, belly button towards the spine, and taking the gaze to the back of the mat. On the next inhale, we're going to step the feet forward behind the wrists, coming through our halfway lift, flat back, gaze forward. Exhale to take our forward fold. Inhaling, fingertips up, gazing up towards the ceiling. Exhale back through our forward fold. We're going to do a second round of this sun salutation A. Inhaling to take our halfway lift. Exhale, dropping the hands to the ground. This time stepping the right foot back first, followed by the left. Coming through your vinyasa, where we either take the knees, chest, chin to the ground or take a full chaturanga. Bending the elbows in towards the body, lifting up as we inhale into our baby cobra, hands off the ground, feet pushed into the ground, engaging with the glutes. Exhale, taking the hands to the ground, lifting through all fours, downward facing dog. Using this downward facing dog to come back to our breath, so 5 long, deep inhales and exhales through the nose and out through the nose. Taking the shoulders away from the ears, gripping in with the fingers into the ground and taking the gaze to the back of the mat. On the next inhale, stepping the left foot forward behind the left hand, followed by the right, coming through our halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, fingertips up, gazing up towards the ceiling. Exhale, hands together, back through to heart center, coming back to Samastiti, our standing posture. So we've done a few rounds of sun salutation A there, a really good sequence to practice on your own at home. We're going to drop into a few seated poses now. So we're going to drop the hips towards the ground, coming into our Malasana, our yogi squat. And for a lot of people, the heels won't quite reach the ground, and in which case you can just place a book or a yoga block behind. Taking the elbows onto the insides of the legs and perhaps taking the palms together or the arms to each side. Making a few rocks between the two sides here and noticing how it feels to be opening up the groin area. The aim is to either have the toes facing forward or just facing slightly out to either side. Allowing the shoulders to relax and removing any kind of harsh gaze which you might have behind the eyelids. On the next inhale, we're going to lift once more, lengthening crown of the head towards the ceiling. And as we exhale, dropping the sit bones to the ground and coming into our butterfly pose by taking the palms of the feet together. Taking the hands behind the hips so that we can move into a comfortable position. And it might mean that your feet are placed quite far in front of you here. Do what feels right for you today. Dropping the shoulders up and down and taking the hands onto the feet as if you're opening up the toes like you're opening up pages of a book. Allowing the knees to drop to either side. Inhaling, lifting crown of the head towards the ceiling. And exhaling to fold forward with the chest. Seeing if we can maintain a straight spine going from the hips up to the crown of the head. And when we feel like we've reached our maximum here, allowing the head to round, gaze to the belly button. Applying a little pressure with the elbows onto the inner legs to allow the knees to drop out to each side. Then taking another round of breath here. Slowly, mindfully, bringing the body back through to seated. And then we're going to take that right leg out in front of us and taking the left foot onto the inside of the right leg. We're going to come into a hamstring calf stretch here. We're going to firstly check in that the big toe is pointed towards the face and our belly button's pulled in towards our spine. As we inhale, we're going to lift with the fingertips, gaze towards the ceiling. And as we exhale, we're going to fold forward, maybe taking the hands on the shin, the thigh, maybe around the foot. Inhaling to lift with the chest and exhale, folding a little deeper. Breathing here for 4 more breaths. With each inhale, seeing if we can lengthen. And with each exhale, maybe folding a little deeper. Really using the power of the breath here to allow the body to relax into the posture. After a final round of breath, on our exhale, bringing the body back through to center. And we're going to point this left knee towards the ceiling this time. And taking the left hand behind the left hip. Taking that right arm and cradling it round the left leg, pointing the right toes into the face. Inhaling, lifting crown of the head towards the ceiling. Exhaling to twist. Oh, hello, Maud. Inhaling, lifting crown of the head towards the ceiling. Exhale to twist and taking one more round of this in your own pace. Inhale to take the crown of the head towards the ceiling. Exhale, twisting chest towards the back of the room. And slowly, mindfully bringing the body back through to center. I'm going to keep this right leg out straight just for a moment whilst we place the left leg on top of the right. And you can do this lying down if it's more comfortable. And then when we feel ready to do so, bending with this right knee towards the ceiling and taking the hands behind the hips. So here we're really getting into this glute IT band area. It tends to be really tight for people who walk, run, cycle a lot. And using the momentum which is in our leg, drawing this left knee out in front of us. Dropping the shoulders back and down and taking the gaze forward. Taking another few deep breaths here. Noticing how as we breathe, we're creating some extra space in our body to fold deeper. And on the next inhale, slowly unraveling the legs, taking both palms of the feet to the ground and maybe just having a few rocks from side to side. That should feel quite good. And now moving on to the opposite side, this time we're going to have the left leg out straight and placing the right palm of the foot in towards the left leg. Again, pointing the toes towards the face, pulling the belly button towards the spine, inhaling to lift with the fingertips and exhaling to fold. Inhaling to take our halfway lift, gaze forward. Exhaling, folding a little deeper. Using 4 deep, long breaths here to allow the body to fold. Creating space on the body with each inhale as you lengthen, and with each exhale, folding the body deeper. On the next inhale, slowly unraveling the body, taking the crown of the head back towards the ceiling and pointing that right knee towards the ceiling. Taking the right hand behind the right hip and cradling this left arm around the leg. You can see a different angle of this time. Inhaling, crown of the head towards the ceiling, pointing the toes towards the face. Exhale to twist. Inhaling to lift with the crown of the head. Exhaling, twisting chest towards the back. Taking one more round of breath here. Slowly moving the body back through to center. Crossing this right leg over the left, bending with the left knee, and maybe crawling the hands closer in towards the hips. And again, this can be done lying. Drawing this right knee out in front of us, getting a stretch into the glute, into the IT band here, can feel quite tight. Breathing deeply. Gently unraveling with the legs, giving them a bit of a rock from side to side once more. And coming back to a seated position. Having one final stretch around the spine and around the sides of the body here. We're going to take the right hand, taking it to the side of the right hip, reaching over with the left, taking the gaze up towards the ceiling. Feeling a good stretch in the side of the body, pulling the belly button towards the spine. Taking one more inhale here. Exhale, dropping the left hand to the side of the left hip, reaching over the right arm this time. Final stretch of the day. Gaze up towards the ceiling. Stretching into the side of the body. You might need to bend the elbow a little here. Inhale here once more. Exhale, dropping the right hand to the ground. And thank you very much for joining me today. Please leave your comments below and subscribe to my channel if you like the video you've seen. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.